Hey everybody out there, so today for you guys, I just want to discuss and talk about this because I have gotten a lot of messages and comments about this on my videos for about the last week and a half. And at first I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't been paying attention, hadn't even heard about this before until I did some research and found some things out. And I talked to some friends and I got myself more educated on it. And I'm going to say first off as I start this video, and I'll say it again at the end, I am not a legal expert. Do I have friends who are lawyers who I talked about this with? Yes, I did do that. One, I will admit, he actually works for the federal government. For a contracting agency as their lawyer. One of them is a domestic lawyer. You should know the difference between domestic issues and government federal issues, which Coppa is a federal issue, not a domestic issue. But they both went through legal background training, so you understand what I'm trying to say. I've had to deal with lawyers and verbiage and things of that nature. When my family passed away, about probably like 2-3 lawyers separately, including my own. And as well as I did when I was in college, take actually a fair amount of college classes in legal studies because my degree, Parks and Recreation, you do have to be legal compliant if you're running a facility and things of that nature. So they had me take about 4 to 5 lawyer-esque classes on how to read, how to understand, how to be compliant, mainly having to be a facility to be FDC compliant for portable access for people who have disabilities. But also other things of that nature. So I have a little bit of experience, but I am by no means a legal expert on the matter. Now there's a couple things I want to go over. Now I'm not going to have things and fancy things here because I'm just doing this from my phone here. But there's a couple things I want to take note about Coppa that you have to keep in mind, and I think people are... This is the reason why they're not informed, and there's a reason why you should be still scared about the way the FDC's come out and said things, but you should also be knowing what people are doing to help try to help YouTube and Coppa coexist for content creators to be compliant with Coppa, so to speak, is what I'm trying to say here. Now, like I said, if you don't know what Coppa is, definitely go watch other videos out there, because otherwise you are going to get confused. Because I'm just going to go straight in and just talk about things that it says. So it says for YouTube to be considered kids content includes characters, celebrities, or toys that appeal to children, include animated characters or cartoon figures, has a predominant child audience, contains activities that appeal to children. This is, from what I've read, YouTube's definition of kids compliant. Now Coppa states the following, and you have to remember when Coppa was initially written is a time when I actually grew up as a kid. I think Coppa passed compliance, passed the federal House, the House and Senate back in what, 1998 to 2001, somewhere in that late 90s, early 2000s, I think it passed. And you have to remember the terminology it was used. And if you guys know anything about federal laws, laws take longer to be passed than they... How can I say this? Something can happen in life, okay? And it takes a while for the federal government's laws to catch up to that. And that's what you kind of see happen with Coppa here. The verbiage they're using is very, very old. And it hasn't caught up to how culture and everything has changed over the last 20 plus years almost. So back when this was written, and it still applies to right now, so do keep that in mind. Coppa states the subject matter is child related, visual content is child related, the use of animated characters or child oriented activities and incentives, the kind of music or audio content that is for kids, the age of models, the presence of children's celebrities, language, and they have things like bright colors, animated characters, YuGiOh, like just basic terminologies we use now, but back in the early 2000s were considered kid stuff. And if you grew up in that era of the late 90s, early 2000s, you will remember that it kind of, that's what they were doing. And the internet back then was the Wild West. So Coppa, yes, it is to protect children, and I completely agree it should be done, because I remember how wild, wild west the internet was back when I was a kid growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, before Coppa came out. But these are just basic things they're trying to do to protect kids, but they need to be updated. Now, the things I want to say that people are getting concerned about, I think, and we're going to switch topics now from talking about Coppa in general to talking about how it's going to affect the YuGiOh community and how it could. I mean, I talked to a lawyer friend of mine, and he said, well, I mean, it doesn't matter about what your analytics say. And I was like, yeah, I kind of got that. You have to remember what YuGiOh is considered. What's the joke we've always made with YuGiOh? It's a children's card game. Animated characters, bright colors, games. Yeah, not looking too hot right now. That's like 3 of 5, and there's some more. Bright colors, yeah, not looking too good. And you may say, well, you know, who most of us, I'm a kid, I'm an adult, I'm not a kid under 13 years old that has to be compliant with Coppa. That doesn't matter what you are. It just matters if you're, you know, what the FTC and the federal government thinks. Because you have to keep in mind, this is a YouTube issue, but the federal government is watching very carefully how YouTube handles this, and they're having their hand in the cookie jar as well. This is not just YouTube manning its content creators changing the algorithm again. This is the federal government coming down after putting a ban hammer on YouTube to do this. And I think they've already come out and stated that they're going to have bots going through the system. I don't know. But you do have to keep a couple of things in mind that they've said, and you have to read in between the lines, and this is where you have to understand the legal legal jargon, excuse me. For example, when people bring up, you could be fined up to $42,000 per video if it's not FTC compliant to Coppa. What was the key word I said there? Up to $42,000. You could be fined $50. You could be firing $100. You don't know. Do I think they're going to come out after the major YouTubers? Yes, because even though the federal government is coming down hard on this and talking big talk, they do not have the resources, as the FTC is actually, if you look online, is one of the lowest federal funded agencies. And for that reason, they don't have the resources to enforce this to the maximum. Now, are they going to come after? You're coming after YouTube because it's probably the biggest platform, and YouTube has come out over the last 2 years and said we have the most views for kids and all this that are under the age that they were showing. They were speaking out loud and not compliant with Coppa. And do I think they're going to come after bigger YouTubers out there? Yes, but we don't know. As one of my friends told me, we don't know how it's going to affect. It could go one of two ways. It could just be a situation where they hit the big channels, and that's all they do. They find Jake Paul, they find these big channels out there, they make sure that they're compliant now. They come down hard. It could be a situation where they micromanage everything, actually, and they have bots implemented, as they've talked about in the past, and they literally just make YouTube this very white and vanilla. Because, you know, as I've been in YouTube content creating for 7 years now, you either have the extreme kid content or you have the adult content, and then you have this mixed ground. And this is something that also I'm starting to find out as I was doing more research and talking to one of my friends who actually had looked into the matter. And I found out this from just listening to certain channels out there as well. And according to what I found out, YouTube, to be Coppa compliant, you have to have calls. And what do I mean by that? Do you have calls? And this is something that you again have to understand the legal jargon here. And I'm trying my best to explain this and talk it as best as I know. But like I said, I am no expert on this. But you have to have intent to be wanting to cater to kids. All right? There is a legal gray area, so to speak. So, for example, yes, I do YouTube videos for YuGiOh, right? Okay, cool. Cool. But am I really trying to market to kids? No, I'm really not. Am I coming out and saying that? I mean, I'm not trying to market to kids, to be honest. And I think for that reason, you know, there's this gray area from what I'm understanding. And according to be Coppa compliant, YouTube, if you've looked, if you have a YouTube channel, it says, is it kids friendly? Is it not? Is it adult content? And Coppa, apparently, the FTC said, well, you can also have a mixed gray area because legally you can. You know, it can be interpreted differently a little bit to some extent. And for that reason, YouTube didn't do that for some reason. And from what I can understand, that's because AdSense. If the FTC is coming down on you, ad revenue does not want to be going to kids content anymore. If the FTC is coming down on you, they're going to go to more adult content or something of that nature. I have a feeling from what I've talked to people that had to do with ad revenue because there's technically actually 3 areas, just not 2 if you read the legal jargon from legally. So saying that, do I think the laws need to be updated? Yes, but they take time to catch up. If you know anything about how laws work, they take time. And for the federal government to catch up to it, it takes time. Do I think it is as big a problem as people have said? I don't think it's going to be as big a problem as they said, but, and I'm going to put a big but on this, literally, that I could be wrong, and it could be the death of YouTube, a slow, painful death, where they just knock out everyone. But I think, from what I've understood and what I'm hearing, the people at the FTC don't even know certain things about how the YouTube works and everything. And they're like, oh, okay, we didn't understand everything. So they're trying to work with the content creators and just work in general to make this, implement this more understanding, because by law's definition, it is very wide open. And the reason they probably have done that is because the law can come in, the federal government can come in, the FTC, and say, well, it covers this, so we're going to sue you, or we're going to fine you, or something of that nature, because the law is very broad for a reason, so they can enforce it. But like I said, there is a legal gray area, and that's what I'm finding out more and more. So how is this going to affect the YuGiOh community? I don't know. I think it's not going to affect us as much. We are a small community. I don't know, though. I don't know. We don't know. I could be completely wrong, and come 2020, the channels are all dead. I don't know. Because there's so many different roads we can take. There's so many different things. We don't know how it's going to go down fully. If it goes down by the legal definition as it stands, and they implement it hard across YouTube, that's the death of YouTube. That's the death of a lot of channels. If they just hit the top channels, well, that's not going to be it's going to hurt YouTube, but I think people are going to still survive. But it may kill YouTube in the long run. Is it going to be a situation where we just don't know? I'm being honest with you. We don't know. But this is the information that I found and just my 2 cents on it. Like I said, and I'll say again, I am not a legal expert. I talked to some people who are lawyers. I have some friends. I took legal classes in school, but I am not a lawyer. And this is my understanding, and I'm just passing this information on to you guys because I got spammed, and I have friends who are YouTubers who are messaging me, asking me questions, and I'm just like, oh Lord, okay, I've dealt with lawyers before, and I've dealt with laws before, and I had to take classes on this. So I talked to some legal friends I have who are lawyers. I, know from what I know about, lawyer jargon, legal jargon and stuff. And like the one big misconception I think a lot of people have is they're like, oh, if you do a video, for example, you're going to be fined $42,000. It says up to $42,000. I've only heard one person even mention that in a video. So I think people are just not informed, and they're being scared because of that reason. If you want to take anything away, I don't know how bad it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be as bad as you think. But again, we could be wrong. And it could be horrible and be a slow, painful death for YouTube. We don't know. But I think it's going to be okay, if you ask me personally after talking to people. So those are my thoughts. I'm going to end the video here. Hope this was helpful. Like I said, I'm no legal expert, though. But take care, guys. Sorry this is somewhat Yu-Gi-Oh related, somewhat not. I'll have some content out on Monday. Got a deck profile coming out for you guys, and I got some deck profiles I'm working on for next month as well, for December. So take care, guys. I'll see you guys next time.